I do believe we're live, Joe.
We are, and we're
first time in a
together.
week.
When has it been a week?
Yeah, it's been a week.
Oh my! And
right.
we had pepper days off all over the place. We're together for the rest of the week. It is Joe Chaffee, Fios One News, Long Island, and Fios One News, New Jersey.
And Joe Rayo, Fios One News, Lower Hudson Valley. And I used the analogy with Joe before he pressed the Go Live button that the weather pattern to me over the next 6 to 10 days reminds me of a hockey game, Joe, where a very action-packed hockey game where one of the teams just keeps shooting the puck at the goalie. The goalie doesn't know which way to go because there's puck after puck after puck.
Right.
And for us, it looks like there's going to be one disturbance after another over the night. Very, very active pattern.
Well, you know, this really kind of kicked off in the beginning of October. One of the things that I'm seeing, and of course there's no guarantee that what we've had so far in November is going to continue, you know, over the long haul. I think we all know that there have been a number of times where we've had early hints of winter only to have the pattern flip. But that being said, I think looking back at the last 2 weeks, we've had two shots across the bow. We've had the that early snow, and then of course we had the brutal cold, third coldest Thanksgiving on record, coldest since 1901. And that Friday morning, I woke up with a low of 12.
Wow.
And that was in '89 when we had the snow on Thanksgiving Day. I woke up with a low of 11.
Right.
But the what I'm driving at here in the longer haul is that when you look at the pattern as a whole, I think that you're seeing a lot of things that are pointing to a busy winter, and I think the next couple of weeks are critical in terms of how the overall pattern is going to develop for the longer term. I think we're going to start to see the picture come together around the middle of the month, and that's going to push us, you know, with regards to the long range. Record snow cover growth continues in North America. You have this actually, I think we could call it the Snowvember to remember, because throughout much of the Midwest after yesterday and the Northeast, you've got places that are having their snowiest November ever.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Biggest 24-hour snowfall records going by the boards, not just in one or two places, but in a lot of places. I'm, you know, again, all these different signs, whether they stay that way or not, but I think we're seeing, you know, shots across the bow here that it's going to be an interesting winter coming up.
Well, you know, my cohort here at Fios One, news anchor Mike Gilliam, was complaining somewhat bitterly about all the rain that we had yesterday and the rain that we had over the weekend. And I just looked at him. I said, "Would you have liked to have been in Chicago or someplace out in the Midwest? Because all of that wet stuff that we had was more white stuff for them."
One of my YouTube regulars is from Arlington Heights. And he had about 9 to 12 where he was. The north side of Chicago got a bit more. It was about 6 at Midway, but I think it was 9 or 10 at O'Hare. The north side of Chicago got more, but there was a lot of power outages all over the place.
Oh, it's terrible.
And all time snowiest Novembers on record for a number of cities up in that part of the Midwest. Before we get started, I just want to say one thing. I have it up on the descriptor to the live stream, and I just want to hit on this really fast. If you have an Android device, you can actually, in case you miss it, you can watch the Joe and Joe Weather Show on a replay on my weather app. It's not out for iPhones, Joe, not yet. Still kind of waiting for Apple to do its thing. This is an absolutely free app. You can download it, and I have a video section in there, so if you miss the live stream, you can just go on the app and watch it. So I just put the link up in the chat right now for those of you, again, for Android devices. When the iPhone comes out, the iPhone version of the app comes out, I'll let you know. But go ahead and download it. Doesn't cost you a dime. And if you miss the Joe and Joe show, you can watch it there. All right?
That's great.
So now we can go on to the maps. And let's, I want to start with Joe. I love this tool. This is the interactive surface map tool. Did I show? I think we started using this. It really is great, because now when you're going to throw dates out to me, we can go to them. But this is the surface map. This is the latest surface map from tonight, from 7 o'clock on the plot. You've got yesterday's storm sitting in the Gulf of Maine. That was another big rain producer.
Right. And we have another storm system that ultimately, over the next 24 to 48 hours, is going to develop out really over the ocean. And that storm is going to really rev up in response to a very deep upper level trough of low pressure. And once those two teleconnect, and they will do so mainly out east of the Mid-Atlantic coastline.
Here's the GFS from here, and you can actually see it from the perspective of southeastern Canada.
Right.
This is a wrapped up bomb that develops
right.
and gets to eastern Nova Scotia. I also think that the GFS, and this is left over from last year, I think the GFS is guilty of being too warm, and I'm thinking that perhaps at least into the northwestern part of Nova Scotia, that's going to be more snow than anything else, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
We'll see. But this is a really revved up system. Take a look at the wind field here, which really impressed me. And we're going to take a look. I want to bring up the new NAM too, because we have that, but we can't see southeastern Canada. But look at the wind here for Wednesday night into Thursday with this 958 millibar low.
Right.
I mean, this is crazy. These are whole gales for that area.
This is a real, as one of my professors used to say, a stem winder. I mean, this is like, or as Tex Antoine, those of you who remember Tex back in the 50s or 60s and 70s on New York television, whenever something like this would show up, and he would tell, and this is a great thing about Tex, was that for prospective people who wanted to become young people like you and I, for example, he would tell you to go and look at the New York Times weather page, where they actually had the National Weather Service back then, the U.S. Weather Bureau maps, and you could see the isobars. And he would use the analogy: it's like taking your wristwatch and turning it so that the
as tight as you can before it breaks.
Yeah, and that's basically what we're looking at with this thing here.
Well, I'm going to switch over to the NAM, and actually we do get a partial view of this on the NAM in terms of the wind field. It seems like it has more of the wind between Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and just along the coast. But let's see what it does with the precip.
Well, basically, when we're looking at something like this, just keep it in the back of your mind that here we are, it's Tuesday night. You're not going to see those winds diminish to any significant degree until maybe later Thursday or Thursday night.
Yeah, this is the winds are going to crank for a while because the low doesn't get out of the way. I mean, the NAM just really wraps the low up also,
right.
But the NAM has the colder look on the west side, which was correct with our snow back on the 15th,
right.
With the colder atmosphere. So I'm going to kind of go along with it. Also, some of that snow actually backs into eastern Maine and gives them an additional wallop of snowfall. And in fact, this is their forecast. That doesn't count what's already fallen on the ground. So this goes total snowfall through 7 o'clock Thursday. So much of northern Maine getting half a foot to a foot, less as you go to the south and east. But northern New England going to do quite well. The ski resorts in interior New England also going to do quite well. Here's the Weather Service forecast snow amounts for upstate New York. A lot of this is elevation driven.
Right.
And if you look down the Hudson Valley, you can see in the valley here where it's likely to be warmer, an inch or less or even nothing, and then you go into the elevated areas to the east and to the west, and you start to get into some higher amounts of, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches in the Berkshires, and then you go on up into the Adirondacks. You start to get to Old Forge, 8 to 12, Indian Lake, 6 to 8. So it's a pretty good for this time in November. That's pretty impressive, I think.
And don't rule out those who are in the lower Hudson Valley, and we're talking about now down toward Orange County or Putnam or even Westchester and Rockland, that maybe some snow showers will come whirling on past your neighborhood, if not later tonight, maybe early in the day tomorrow. Again, driven in part by these very strong and gusty winds backlashing our tri-state region.
I'm going to do something here on the fly, as I checked it earlier. They're forecasting 8 for Syracuse, and I have the armorycam.com, so we can at least see if it's snowing in Syracuse yet. And of course, our signal is kind of a little tough tonight, so I'm not sure if we're going to get this whole thing to load live. I couldn't get it to load. Oh, there it goes. So it actually is live. We don't see any traffic. and we don't see any snowflakes there coming down. In fact, we don't even see. Oh, something just went by the camera. But I'm going to keep this handy because if this winds up during tomorrow and it picks up, we can take a look at this going forward. So
people don't think of Syracuse; they think of Buffalo, for example, or Rochester or Watertown. But Syracuse is in its own little snow belt because of its position relative to the Finger Lakes. I believe there's that one interstate. Is that 81? I think it's 81.
81 that goes up,
that goes straight up toward Watertown.
And then 90 goes east-west, and 81 goes up to Pulaski and Watertown. And they're getting waves coming. This is more what's being driven right now is actually more rotating around the coastal, the storm from yesterday. You see the rotation going counterclockwise.
Right.
I think when you start to get that ocean low taking over at Baum, and the winds go northwesterly and come over the lakes, you're going to start to see the lake effect really take hold. So that'll probably be during the day on Wednesday. So we can actually go back to the NAM and take a look at where we're going.
And you see sometimes in situations like this, you see on the satellite picture, and how wonderful now is it to have GOES 16 up there. We're going to get some really, over this upcoming winter, some really wild.
Oh, I agree.
Effect, like ribbons of it. You can, but I mean, on the
you'll
old
be able
satellite,
to see it. You'll be able to actually see it all the way down.
Right. I mean, I mean, on the old satellite pictures, the old GOES satellites, you'd see the ribbons, but now we're actually probably going to be able to see like the ribbons have texture in them, so that you can actually look at a ribbon and you can actually see within the ribbon who's getting bombed with tremendous amounts of snow versus just moderate amounts.
So here's the NAM, and we're now into Wednesday morning, and of course, look how tight the gradient gets. You can make the isobars out. And now the winds off Lake Ontario going northwest, northwest. So that brings big lake effect snow. So I think that's all going to be during the day tomorrow into tomorrow night in Syracuse. So that Armory cam is going to be cool to use. And then you see the heavy snow backing in from the east into Nova Scotia and into eastern Maine. Then of course the low pulls out, and now we've got a little bit of moisture coming up for Friday. We don't have it out far enough at this point, only 54 hours. I'm not really too overly impressed by this lead system that's coming out for Friday. There's some, a little moisture with it, but there's not a whole lot of cold air, Joe, and that cold air moves out fairly quickly. If you don't get any kind of intensity, it may just be like some light rain with maybe a couple of wet snowflakes, and that should be about it, because it falls apart while it's overhead.
Right. In fact, the European is even more insistent that even though it looks very impressive several hundred miles west of us, that by the time it gets here,
it's gone.
It's pretty well gone.
And part of the reason for that is you've got this next system coming out of the plains and running northeastward. This is going to be more rain for what looks like later Saturday into Sunday morning. And even this time around, there's not a whole lot of cold air to speak of. So it's a narrow ribbon of snow on the GFS on the northwest of the primary low. This is going to be another one of these primary-secondary deals. You get the primary goes to the lakes. You're going to get a secondary low that forms on the warm front. Unlike the last two. Oh, and by the way, the one that was Saturday, the one with the radar presentation with the comma head was just insane.
Yeah.
And also with the wind, Saturday night into Sunday morning, I had gusts of 60.
Wow.
But anyhow, this is primary to secondary, and then that goes out, and then here comes the next one. And, this one seems like there's more cold air to play with. I think the GFS kind of argues that maybe you have to watch for the possibility of a little frozen or freezing precip at the start. I'm going to wait till we get there to figure out what the atmosphere really looks like. But it's still, at the end of the day, another primary to the west, secondary at the coast. And after that, Joe, looks like we're going to get a shot of cold air for the middle and latter part of next week that hangs around at least through the end of next week with the next high coming down.
Let me just say, let's back up about this weekend. Sunday, for the lower Hudson Valley, I went for a high of 55, but I did so begrudgingly because, as you just pointed out, with the primary going to our west, possibly a secondary developing to the south of the tri-state area, you get one of these like loopy-doopy warm fronts where, you have places like, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, getting into the 60s, and meantime, you've got that northeast. You got that northeast wind here, and you see temperatures are barely making it much above 40 or 45. It certainly looks from this distance like the warm front is going to go freely through our area and push temperatures into the 50s here on Sunday. But at this particular point in time, I'm a little leery about that because I've seen many a situation just like this where you promote, hey, it's going to get nice and warm,
and it don't happen,
and it never happens. People, you wait there on Sunday and you see, like, well, it did get to 40, do you think it'll get to 55 by the end of the day, and it never does. So right now, yeah, in the official sense, I'm saying mid-50s. Don't be surprised if we move through the week. That 55 goes to 52, 48 for Sunday. So we'll see.
All right, so long range, just really fast. You've got this block that's in northeastern Canada, so that's the big reason why you're getting this, big storm. And while you are seeing this trough in the east, Joe, it was too close to the coast. The energy down in the Carolinas kind of lifts up toward Nova Scotia, and you get this big bomb that forms out there underneath the block. Right. So that's why you always have to be careful. I tell everybody all the time, because they see stuff and chatter, and people talk about blocks and storm signals and everything else. That's all fine and dandy. The bottom line is, though, if your troughs and ridges are not in the right place, it doesn't matter. And in this case, it matters for Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, and it matters to us because of the wind, but not really much more than that. Right. One of the things, Joe, that really strikes me, the pattern in the west, you've got this, the jet stream is so far to the south across the Pacific, and you're getting these really strong shortwave troughs that are coming in one after another, after another.
Right. That's what I mentioned at the onset of our...
it's like you said, the hockey thing.
Yeah, it's like a hockey team. It's like we, here in the eastern part of the country, we're kind of like the where the goal is, and we're getting shot at by these systems coming in from off of the Pacific through California. But, you think about what they've just gone through in California with the very warm, very dry conditions, and now Mother Nature...
one after another.
Yeah, now Mother Nature is trying to balance the checkbook and saying, okay, you want water? You want moisture? Here it comes. Boom, 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 boom.
This is what we call it the split. It's a split flow.
Right.
The Canadian jet stream running from northwest Canada to the east by Sunday is there, but it's kind of weak. The Pacific jet is actually stronger. But as we go through next week, that Canadian part of the jet stream looks to strengthen on all the models, and this is why I think the second half of next week, after whatever we get on Tuesday. Is going to be on the cold. Is going to be cold because you're going to get that strong flow from northwest Canada down into the eastern part of the United States, and you still have this very active Pacific sending things in one after another.
Absolutely. Look at that big ridge that's over the Aleutians.
Yes. And now we're at kind of squirrely land with regards to the long range at day 11 and 12. But I have to tell you, Joe, I'm seeing things that interest me for the middle part of the month. You've got hints of blocking up in Scandinavia, building toward Greenland. You've got you've got a cold air connection to Canada to some degree, and you're still kind of holding on. I don't think it's going to look exactly like this, but I think the chess pieces are there, and if depending on how they move around, the middle part of this month, I think, might present a snow opportunity. For us. I'm just kind of, open speculation. We can do that.
I was looking at the European ensemble, though, earlier, out to 360 hours. That takes us to the 13th of December. And I have to tell you, it looked awfully warm.
Well, there is an argument that the ridge may pop up in the east in the long range. GFS didn't really do that in this run. It kind of has it flat. But you've got, one set of data... Just to kind of keep it easy, there's one set of upper air data that would suggest that we're going to warm up, going into the middle part of the month. Then there's that is fighting against what some people may have heard of called the Madden-Julian oscillation. Which is that deals with tropical changes in pressure patterns across the West Pacific and in the Indian Ocean. But just to keep it easy. The phase that's in is the phase 8, phase 1, phase 2, which is the cold, snowy winter in the east. So which is going to win out here? Is it going to be the data that's pointing to the fact that maybe it could warm in the east, or is it going to be the Madden-Julian oscillation, which is saying the exact opposite?
And you talk about the tropics. We're only 3 days away from closing the book officially, or unofficially, on the tropical storm season for this year. A season which began, if you remember, back in the beginning of June. It was looking pretty much with the very unusually chilly temperatures off of Africa, and the dust that was taking place, and the prospects of maybe a building El Nino, and even the so-called experts, well, I won't say so-called, they are the experts out in Colorado State, saying it would be a below normal or below average year. And what happened in the end? It turned out to be a lot more than just below normal.
Well, and Michael kind of capped it off,
Yeah.
Going into a part of Florida that has actually not seen a major hurricane in almost 2 generations, and just absolutely annihilated parts of the Florida Panhandle around Mexico Beach. It
Right.
was, and it came in October,
Right.
which was even more unusual.
What was the year that we were, as we were coming to the end of August, we were looking at the similarities? I think it was 1961, where there was hardly or not much in the way of activity, and everybody was saying, like, what's going on? There's nothing going on or whatever. But in 61, after almost zero tropical, activity, they went crazy, and that's pretty much what happened here. We saw in September on, as you mentioned, into October, everything was coming at us left and right.
Yep.
In Florida, and it was crazy. And now, as we close the book, or about to close the book, how many storms did we have? Named storms. We got up to what letter? N or?
We did. I don't think we got to Otis. No, we got to N.
Yeah.
I think it was Nadine was the last one.
Right.
Just running to Robert. Oh, and Robert, that was wonderful to meet you on Sunday. Robert Matthew Policasto, myself and Angry Ben went to Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and Robert joined us with our live stream on Sunday.
Did you go to 328
We had a lot of
Chauncey
fun.
Street?
I did not go to 328 Chauncey Street. Was that their address? That was their address.
328 Chauncey Street.
Right, in Bensonhurst.
Right.
Okay, but where did I'm trying to remember which sewer Ed Norton worked in. Was it the
I thought it was the New York sewer.
No, but he worked didn't he work a specific street sewer?
The Madison Avenue.
The Madison Avenue sewer, because they're air conditioned.
Right, or the Park Avenue.
The Park Avenue sewer. Just running through some of the chat. Weather Wolves, by the way, he's what I was talking about. He's on our Facebook chat tonight. He was in Arlington and Chicago,
right,
in Arlington Heights, and getting almost a foot in some places.
I really wish we had back on our cable system. A number of years ago, we actually had as one of our channels WGN.
I remember. Yeah, of course.
And I used to love watching. This was before here in New York. One of the stations now does a 10-day forecast, but they used to do a 10-day forecast back like 20 years ago on WGN. It was kind of like unique or whatever. I used to love watching. Sometimes they get clobbered with a significant snowfall or cold weather, while we had something much different, and to watch the guys out there forecasting. But we don't have that access anymore.
No. Well, how about we call it a night? It was a nice re-debut on our part.
Yeah, 9:44. Yeah, we've gone pretty well. How many minutes now? 23.
25 minutes. It works.
Yeah, not bad for being away for a week.
Well, we have been gone for a week, so you and I are together for the rest of this week,
right?
And for part of next week.
I'll be here all of next week except Friday.
All right, so
7th.
we've got
Monday
Monday
through
through
Tuesday. We may try
Thursday.
something on that night. Since my son has dragged me.
Yes, he's in the 21st century, folks. He's here. He's arrived.
I used to have an old computer that had a camera with it, and I used to Skype every once in a great while, and did some rearranging of my office at home. Found the camera, and my son said to me, "Why didn't you attach the camera to your desktop computer?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said it came with software. It came with some disk or whatever, or discs, and he just plugged the camera in, and automatically
it just goes.
It just automatically Microsoft camera. After 5 minutes, boom, 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 and I now have a camera. So now
Joe is discovering that there is a world past the year 2000, so it really is good. Little by little. So if he's going to get on Skype, then when he's gone, and if he's not away, or if you're not busy,
you can Skype in on that.
You can Skype in on the Friday night. We'll give it a try, and we'll go from there. And I can pull the maps up here. Then you get the OBS done on your house, on your side, and you can have do all the technical thing. Sometimes it
scary?
feels like that.
It was scary. Last night on Stephen Colbert, he had some sort of special last night. He went out into the street. He pulled a girl. The girl must have been like 18 or 19 years old. Took her over to a phone booth. There is actually still a couple of phone booths left in Manhattan. Took her phone booth. The girl didn't know how to use the phone booth. Absolutely had no clue whatsoever.
I'm not surprised.
Isn't that amazing?
You know what? My dad used to just never liked anything. If my thing with my dad was, if it was invented, if it came after fire and the wheel, he wanted no part of it. Okay, so anyhow,
we had Rudolph tonight. We were in the newsroom. Some of the younger people, they were asking us questions.
We are Santa's elves. We fill Santa's shelves. We make toys for each girl and boy. Oh, we are Santa's elves.
Tonight was the 55th showing of Rudolph. I'm sure you and I could remember when it was all the way back.
Oh, yeah.
When it was sponsored by General Electric on the NBC network, way back when. And so it was on tonight. I don't understand. It's only, the 27th of November, and they're already showing all the Christmas shows. But by the time we actually get to Christmas,
right.
It's like you're already fed up with the whole thing.
I hear you. All right, we're going to wrap it up here, folks. Thanks for being here. Joe and I will be back tomorrow. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I'll put it up again on the chat board. For those of you who have an Android device, you can download my weather app, and if you missed the Joe and Joe show, you can watch it on the app in a replay, and you'll get a notification, by the way, if you're on the app, that the video is there and ready for viewing. So, plus my other regular YouTube live stream is on there as well.
And I'll put on my, you go on Facebook, Joe Rayo Weather, and we'll put this show right now on Joe Rayo Weather, so you can watch it tonight or all day tomorrow to your heart's content until we have another one tomorrow night.
All right, I'm at the top of the hour, FiOS 1 News, Long Island and New Jersey.
And FiOS 1 FiOS 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley for me. And
Banson and Fitzgerald in the morning, Jeffrey and Brian on FiOS 1 News.
And then we have Mr. Green, Addison Green, and Brittany Bohr in the midday hours. And then you and I come strolling in to take care of things beginning at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
All right, don't blow away tomorrow, folks, with 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts, especially along coastal areas. We will see you tomorrow.